Yeah, that's a great insight because I think again as time has gone on, there are ways. In fact, I did do a session on this once about reusability, specifically
Hmm.
with Power Apps. One part of the Power Platform, really, but. That was my entry point. I came from a pro dev background as a developer,
Hmm.
and so building apps, being an app developer, was the way I moved into it initially.
Hey there, welcome to Beta Talks, the podcast. I'm Rick,
And I'm Oscar.
and today we are joined by Keith Atherton, who is a Microsoft MVP, MCT, Power Platform Solutions Architect, international speaker, and so much more.
Welcome, Keith.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing really good, thanks. Yeah, I'm just taking a few days off work at the moment, catching up with life and everything else. But yeah, doing really good, thanks.
And then probably the home stretch until the end of December when the holidays kick in, and then it's smooth sailing until the rest of the year, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, very busy times this month.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Of course.
So there's so much things that we wanted to mention while introducing you, but maybe it's better if you do that shortly yourself. So, what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis, if you have that many things that we can mention in just one bio?
Yeah. Thank you for the very nice introduction as well. Yeah, I do get up to different community activities, such as yourselves, the odd bit of speaking and some other shenanigans as well. But yeah, in terms of the day job, I'm a Power Platform solution architect. So really, the day to day it can vary, but really the big part of this is working with customers, see how we can help them. That's always the core aim, and then using the Power Platform to do that is designing a solution and then working with a team where we'll actually build it for them using an agile process typically. And yeah, just seeing how we can make their life easier and better or enable them to build their own solutions with the Power Platform as well. That's also another option for them.
Okay. And then, if you look at Power Platform itself, there's been a lot of changes and improvements over the last couple of years because initially, I think everybody's biggest pet peeve, maybe, or maybe it's a bit bigger than just a pet peeve, but everybody's quote unquote problem, which is then really big, but would be, yeah, but how do you maintain this and how do you do version control and that kind of stuff? Where are we at right now, Keith?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I think there's a lot of changes, as you say, the last few years. It's really been maturing and apparently, receiving lots of investment with all of these changes going on. There have been some recent changes in terms of some ways of some of the source control options as well.
Hmm.
Some of them are still in preview, but we can see things where some Canvas apps, you can actually get down to the YAML, the actual code that underpins that Canvas app. And there are various ways of unpacking solutions to get those components and then put them in a repo, say Azure DevOps or even GitHub as well. So yeah, there are kind of improvements coming all the time. Some things I wish we maybe had for a bit longer. But yeah, with those things on the horizon and things maturing and improving all the time, I think it's becoming a more mature platform as time goes on.
And does that also open up? Sorry, does that also open up the floor more for something like architecture inside of Power Platform? Because initially it used to be I'm building this in this one app
Hmm.
and I'm good to go, but it's this one app and that's it. Is it now more opening up to also patterns inside of Power Platform and that kind of things?
Yeah, that's a great insight because I think again as time has gone on, there are ways. In fact, I did do a session on this once about reusability, specifically
Hmm.
with Power Apps. One part of the Power Platform, really, but. That was my entry point. I came from a pro dev background as a developer,
Hmm.
and so building apps, being an app developer, was the way I moved into it initially. But as you say, yeah, there are many ways where you can architect that to say almost like a code library of reusable UI components that I want to use across multiple apps. So there's a way I'm getting some reuse, and you've got this one bulletproof place, and it's reusable and heavily been tested. anything that references that will get the benefit. But yeah, there are other ways. Going back to the source control, we can actually have pipelines to help with deployments in,
Mm-hmm.
say, Azure DevOps, or use GitHub Actions. There are options as well. But again, yeah, like the reuse there and having things reusable, and that can also be good as well. We mentioned before about enabling the customers, doing that
Mm-hmm.
enablement piece so they can build their own, say, let's give some guidance there so you're not duplicating the effort or copy and pasting this code in 10 places in the app. We're using a more generic and reusable approach.
If you look at this, because like I'm not full into, well, we have a team at the office which I always call the Power Rangers because all the products are called Power something. Um, but I'm if you see now the options, I hear source control, and we had a discussion once about hybrid teams like pro code and low code, and moving in that direction. I hear testability. Um, is it like fully maturing this environment? Because in my experience, I've never really seen like test deployments which are comparable to a production environment, which have regression testing on them. Most of the time, it felt a bit, and it's also the power of it, right? Like it's I have an idea I want to change now, and I have the option to do that. But moment you get mission critical, then this is very important to do. Like, is this is all those categories because it's a lot of stuff we have from DevOps to security. Um, is it maturing everywhere, or are we still lagging somewhere comparing to to like the pro code world, as we call it? It sounds a bit unfair, but
No, great questions. I think, yeah, there are some areas here where I'd love to see some more improvements as well. And you
Mhm.
mentioned there, whether it be automated testing within the pipelines, some things we can do now. And there's even something with the Canvas Power App Studio where you've got this test studio, and you can automate some of those UI actions within the web app itself, because
Okay,
Power Apps
cool.
essentially just are
Hmm.
web apps. But honestly, I think sometimes the setup in the admin for setting up those tests, sometimes there's a lot of overhead and time required to set them up, as can be with any kind of automated testing.
Hmm.
But sometimes I do feel it's not quite there, and I don't know what the adoption is like. I know I don't use it very much. It's mostly manual testing scripts within the Power App Designer, but there are ways that you can use some tools and automate things as well. Um, but yeah, sometimes it is, if you change that UI or change the layout, you've then got to reorder some of those test steps and the test suites and so on. So sometimes it could be a bit more time than it feels it's worth doing. So yeah, definitely some areas for improvement still, but it feels like we're going the right direction with it.
Then I do have a question, and this is just me. I mean, if I'm saying things that aren't correct, please correct me. But it felt to me way back when that Power Apps and maybe Power Automate even more, but then after that, Power Apps were also targeted at citizen developers. So people from the business that now also had the possibility of building applications in a more easy way. But with all of these additions, is it still manageable for citizen developers to do the entire thing
Hmm.
in Power Platform, or are we now more looking at hybrid teams where low code and pro code works together in maybe somebody who has a more dev background does the generic parts of applications, and then a citizen developer uses those parts, or do you see that citizen developers are evolving in that way as well?
Yeah, that's there's a lot to unpack, and that's really great because, like you, when I joined the Power Platform a few years ago, it was a lot of the marketing around, as you say, enabling people who are citizen developers or citizen makers. Sometimes they use the term of,
Hmm.
hey, you don't need the technical skills. You can drag and drop and build something that would solve your business solution. And some of the angles, I think, from the marketing were, hey, you might only have a small internal development team, or you might be outsourcing it to a vendor and it might be expensive. Why, let's put this in your hands. In
Hmm.
the same way you'd maybe use Excel or PowerPoint, where you can drag things and use some basic formulas in Excel, but get some really, value, good value from that can help manage your processes and things. So I think that is still there for sure. And as you say, with some solutions, there's a couple of things I'll touch upon where you can maybe get most of the way, if not all of the way, with some basic solutions. If you're looking at an app with forms and grids, the usual kind of line of business admin type things, straightforward. And there are ways you can build the data model and build a model-driven Power App, and it would just auto-generate a lot of the UI based on the data model. So there's not too much clicking and dragging and writing of code behind the components. Where Canvas Power Apps is the other way around. Is you really start with the blank canvas, hence the name. So I think there's still a place for that. But as you mentioned there as well, a really good point, Rick, about having the pro dev or the pro code. You still need that. And I think with some solutions you do, and some more than others. So I was actually working on something last week, and I actually needed some JavaScript in the front end to do some very specific validation and things that was maybe out the realm of a citizen dev. However, saying that with the help of a lot of AI tools like Copilot these days, or a GitHub Copilot, some of those citizen devs I do see kind of leveling up because they find this new learning curve to learn some of the basics of code to do what it does. But then you maybe get the question of, do they know enough to be able to debug that JavaScript code? Do they know what the code is doing, or have they just asked a tool to generate that code for them? So there's kind of this blurring of the lines with some of these new AI tools to help bridge the gap, or what's sometimes known as fusion development, as you say, where you bring the citizen as well as the pro dev together.
Yeah, and I can imagine that the platform supports this as well. But like you said, the marketing initially was, hey, everybody can make an app if you use Power Automate or Power Apps.
Yeah.
And they still can, but that's not the only thing it does anymore, right? It's way more than just pointing and clicking, and then, hey, now you have a visual representation of your Excel sheet.
It's productive, right? Like it's
It is. Yeah.
We had productive tools in the past. Like 25 years ago, I was super productive in a lot of people were productive in Access, or I could slap something together in Delphi in a matter of minutes, and I would have an app that would help your department with something. Like it's, I felt at some point we almost lost that productivity somewhere, the rapid application development cycle. But
wow, that was a big thing.
You know
That RAD.
RAD was the thing.
RAD.
We have RAD tooling. Wow.
Even sounded
Yeah.
but like we moved completely away. We were like building for weeks on an abstraction before we saw the first pixel on the screen after that, especially going into web. So the tooling needs to be there, because like Excel won't cut it at some point, and you see people trying to do a lot of stuff with that. And
try version controlling that.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah, but I used Power Automate a couple of weeks ago. I needed an alert on a Teams channel when this happened and that happened, and basically with all the connectors and stuff, and like, you just click that around, and it might not be the best thing.
It works.
It saved me getting yet another SaaS application into the building, doing that whole workflow for something specific, while we don't know the process yet. So for stuff like that, it's super effective. We have some internal dashboards and things, and that ranges from Power BI to Dynamics to a form for our internal, for marketing to keep something. We have a team being super productive, and imagine doing the full stack like you would do those kind of apps that might even be temporary. If you would build that with the same stack as we're doing our like customer focus facing app, that would take so much time and investment. I think there's a lot of space also for pro devs to just look into these tools and use them where they're most powerful.
Definitely. It's a really good point, because when I moved from primarily pro dev, which I still use to extend the platform when it's needed, as you say, that it was actually when I joined a new job and they said, okay, can you work on these Power Apps? I think it was to replace things like Access and InfoPath and some other things as well. And it's like, sure, new learning curve. Yeah.
I lost that
myself.
one.
Yeah. There's been so many, right?
Opened up again.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I thought, okay, great. I'll learn this new, new to me Power Apps, and it was great. I was on this new learning curve, but early on, I did find I was thinking, oh, okay, is this a bit limited? A lot of the code, the power effects was like the Excel formulas,
Hmm.
sums and averages and things like this, and so much more. But I did wonder, coming from, as you say, a pro dev background, is, you kind of almost have that full control to an extent. You've got the clay that you can mold as
Hmm.
much as you want in any way, to something where it's mostly Lego blocks that get
Hmm.
attached together and then configured. But I think luckily quite early on, I did realize, hey, you can extend this with ProDev if you need to. So if you do need some JavaScript there, or you call an Azure function to scale something out, or you don't just need to use Dataverse, the internal,
Hmm.
the Power Platform's data source, I can go to Azure SQL, or even on-prem as well, on-prem SQL and other data sources too. Then I realized, oh, my ProDev skills would be useful, but also I'm not as contained as I initially thought I was. You
Hmm.
can go outside the bounds if you need to. And there's other good things that help with the governance and security, like its own security model within Dataverse and other things that, again, give me more reassurance. Okay, this is a platform I'm getting interested in. But I think, Kaz, when you mentioned there as well, that time to market, getting something in the
Hmm.
customer's hands is what appealed to me most from the business value point of view of, hey, I'm saving several sprints by choosing this low code platform
Hmm.
versus going from the ground up, essentially, or even with the JavaScript framework using pro code. So that was a big part of the appeal for me that won me over.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then especially now, what you said, the fact that you have all these hybrid possibilities and that you can still go towards the pro code part for some of the extension. I think that's also something that allows the platform to mature even more and to appeal to more people as well.
Absolutely.
I've seen like internally built apps which only faced a group of users, like 40 users on a department or whatever, for years, which we wasted a lot of time on getting like a really thick Angular stack to work.
Yep.
While I think in the end, the magic in the APIs that I wouldn't try to push into a low code solution would be just an API call.
Yep.
So I think just knowing the tools will also prevent you wasting time on where it's really not necessary. And like in hindsight, I see, well, also with the majority of the tools at this moment, um, a lot of scenarios where this would have been a much more viable option, to go faster, to go a lot faster.
That's the problem always, right?
Yeah, but my question there is like,
Hmm.
if you go a bit more to like public facing or internet facing apps, is this also a viable option, or are you getting into security issues then? Because like internal and within your M365 environment, like of course, like this is fine.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So I guess maybe for the listeners too, just a quick overview of the platform in general. So I sometimes see Power Platform almost like Azure.
Hmm.
It's like the umbrella term, but within it you've got the services. So within there, we mentioned Power Apps. They're mostly internal facing web apps. You
Hmm.
can either drag and drop, but they're fairly straightforward to get 80, 90% to what you need. The one you mentioned there is a great question, Kaz. Is if we wanted something external facing, it was also known as a portal Power App. These
Hmm.
days, it's been changed to Power Pages, and there are some good friends of mine who are really experts in just that field, because it's mostly back to the external facing websites. But you
Hmm.
can get some really good options like self-serve options and lots of authentication options, whether it be like Azure AD B2C and things like this, where they can authenticate in many ways to keep it really secure and robust and reliable. So again, I think that's been part of that maturity process, as we were talking about in recent years. It's developed leaps and bounds, and really it's a great option if depending on the licensing and the costing, once you weigh that up as part of your architecture, it can be a good external facing way, or even used internally like an intranet. If you want people to log in and see their own account information or orders and things like this, you can actually have that kind of ability and set up what we call web roles and other ways of locking down the security and the permissions to what people are allowed to see there as well as giving some anonymous access for landing pages and things.
Hmm.
So yeah, certainly some good options there, but more on the Power Pages side.
Okay.
Switching gears a little bit, one of the things that you a lot of the things that you do are actually in community, in teaching, in helping people learn, in helping people investigate maybe, or getting to know new services. Um, you're also an MVP, which speaks to the fact. What drives you, or what drove you, or what drives you to do so? How did you get into that part of the community?
Yeah, I think a few years ago, when was this? Maybe around 3 years ago now, or almost to the day. It was the first session I ever did was for an online event called the Festive Tech Calendar, and the way I came up, that was the start of my community journey, if you will, about 3 years ago. It was actually on the 1st of December. And that was really came about because many years I was doing pro dev and enjoying it, mostly .NET, SQL Server, and a few other things. But I realized it was staying a bit more legacy. There was a lot more WinForms, sometimes dipping into VB.NET or sometimes VB6 to maintain legacy systems, lots of on-prem. And I had a few friends like Gregor Sutty and others who were doing things in Azure, and it was more cloud-based. And I realized that I wasn't keeping my skills current. I wasn't upskilling and staying up to date. So really, after talking with a few of these friends, I started to look into Microsoft certifications. I kind of learned the hard way of, taking them and, where the learning paths were. And, back in the day, there were ways of getting different discounts as well through some of the Microsoft virtual training days and things like this. I didn't know about any of those. So I was fully paying and overstudying to pass my first few because I didn't know the process very well. So I kind of learned so many lessons. I thought, hey, I go to lots of tech meetups and learn so much from others. How about I share the learning journey of, hey, I'm not a Microsoft certification expert, but as a beginner, I've learned these hard lessons. Let me share them with others. And there was even things like doing the Cloud Skills Challenge where you can earn a 50% or 100% voucher for an exam. Things like this. So I thought, there's study tips, money saving tips, the path you might go. Because when I started, I didn't know which exams to start with, but I knew I wanted to upskill, particularly with Azure. That was my starting point. And so I thought, I can maybe share this with others. I don't know if I'd be good at speaking to people or if it would be useful, but I will try it. And if it didn't go well, or I was rubbish, or I got heckled a lot, I just wouldn't do it again. I would learn the lesson. But in the end, I actually did try it. I really enjoyed it. And I think I've just built from there of pushing myself to try a new thing of, hey, a lot of people blog and they're really good at that. Let me try that. So I'll be trying new things and just dipping my toes in the water to see what I enjoyed. If I didn't enjoy, I just discarded. And I just tried to stay on the handful of things I really did enjoy. And it just built and built. And I think it was once when I was speaking at a user group, one of the user group leaders actually did take me aside after the talk and said, that was good. Have you heard of this Microsoft MVP program? And I'd heard the name, but I didn't know what it was. And then she explained exactly what the program was, how she joined the program, and then kindly offered to nominate me. And it really just, again, built more and more community work because I enjoyed it so much.
And you said something about certifications. I think you're closing in on 10 of them right now, right?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough. I've got 12 actually at the moment.
Okay.
But
and then you need to update your LinkedIn profile banner because that only mentions, I think, like 8 or 9.
A limited amount of characters.
Yeah, I need to work on that.
But I mean, you don't only do events, right? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you're a LinkedIn learning instructor as well. You're a Microsoft certified trainer, so you also give trainings to people.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I was again looking at one thing I really enjoy is the teaching and the coaching and the mentoring of people, and I think it just stems to the essence of I like helping people, and that's useful when you're a consultant as well. So I think a lot of it stems from that. And yeah, one thing I was doing was I've been a fan of LinkedIn Learning and some other platforms for years. And then I had some friends who'd actually delivered courses there, got talking with them just to learn more, be nosy, how does that work? What do you do? Is it enjoyable? And then I got speaking to a manager at LinkedIn Learning through a referral that way. And then, yeah, luckily enough, we wanted to work together. I published 2 courses so far with LinkedIn Learning, both actually Microsoft certification prep as well. One was for Azure Data Fundamentals, the other for Power Platform Developer, seeing as that's where my career's gone in recent years.
Mhm.
And then really going for that Microsoft Certified Trainer, the MCT, was really, I just wanted to do the teaching and training as well as I could. So the thought the next evolution is to aim for something like that, to see how could I improve, how could I deliver better training. And yeah, really the training I did to qualify for that award really was a big eye opener of so many things I should be doing that I wasn't doing. So it really paid off rather than just getting some more letters after my name. It was actually really, really useful.
Yeah, that's the acronyms in the Microsoft space, that they're abundant in that. But you actually touch upon a couple of things that I find interesting, and one of them is, and I think that's something that we see in the industry in general. A lot of people in the industry are curious by nature, right? They want to know how stuff works, and they want to find out how to make it work for them, and then how to manipulate it so that it does something else that they need. That's somehow that's the inquisitive mind is apparently part of whatever drives people that like to work in IT. And the other thing is that you are really focused on, or maybe even pushing yourself to improve and to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's always about continuous learning and development for me. Yeah.
Do you, does that come from anywhere? Is that just who you are? Is that, or is
Yeah.
that a too deep question maybe?
It is, but it's great. Yeah. I love it. I think, yeah, I've just always had that empathetic nature, and always try to be a kind, caring person, and like helping people. But yeah, also the curiosity, is the thing that drives me to learn new things. I always get excited about a new learning curve, which for me, the Power Platform was it's just coming up to 3 years now for me that I've been in this space. But so much of my previous consulting and developing and architecting really transitioned well. Or if you're still using agile, the same processes, you have the same kind of makeup of teams with PMs and architects and developers. So much of that really carried across. It was really learning the new stack. But yeah, I've always enjoyed that, and always tried to remain an adaptable developer over my career, not just the back end but the front end, not just one stack but multiple. Sometimes mobile development, sometimes game development. I used to be a game developer for a few years as well, and run my own company and release games to the App Store and places like that. So yeah, I think I just enjoy as you say, the curious nature and learning new things always.
It's so awesome to see that we are not alone. No. Is it time?
Is it time for a totally random question?
It is time for a totally random question.
Here we go.
Keith, what is the first thing you do after getting home from a trip?
That's a great question. The first thing I do, okay. Because I'm pretty neat and organized, or try to be, I just do the unpacking and try and get life back to normal as quick as I can. I just want things there, unpacked, ready to go. It's off my mind, all done.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have that suitcase standing in the corner of the office for like 3 days before you think, I now really need to either get my underwear out and need new ones. Or...
It's minutes. It's straight open. Get this done in the washing machine. Get this done. Get the laptop out. Everything's unpacked and ready. I can relax and then catch up with the family and spend quality time with them. And it's off my mind. Yep.
Wow, that's I know for a fact not everybody does this.
Not everybody.
I'm probably unusual there.
No,
I must say I'm not even a very neat or tidy guy, but I have the thing is that I cannot think if it's too messy around me. And like getting indeed back to normal as quick as possible after a holiday or a trip, like that's me. Like I'm a bit annoyed for like getting stuff in a suitcase and stuff. I also don't like to run the laundry straight away. It's a lot of work.
You said,
but like
you said, you can't think when it's too messy around you, right? I have the same. However, So no,
However, there's always
Nothing
a
counts
however.
before, however.
no, no.
Well, it's good.
No, I have the same. So, for instance, my desktop, it has exactly one icon, which is the trash can, recycle
You
bin.
can actually hide everything.
I know,
you
but
know?
it's always on the bottom right hand corner. It's there. Just if I'm really annoyed with something, I drag it there.
Oh,
But then my desk is always like spotless.
yeah.
Anything around that, I don't care.
Okay.
I can work if my office is a mess on the other tables or whatever. As long as my desk is clear, I can zone in on just that part of the desk, and then I'm fine
Yeah.
because it's clean.
I
That's
kind of have. There's a
interesting.
box in the corner there.
Something's out of place. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is all I have on my desk at the moment. The notepad,
Notepad,
analog,
yeah.
old
Yeah.
school. That's it. That's it.
Eh,
Clean and tidy.
I still use that, especially when talking to customers. I still take out my notepad to just draw things or write things down or whatever.
Same.
Cool.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about already a little bit was Festive Tech Calendar, right? And it's the time is now, and apparently you are working on that as well as of all the other things that you're doing. Could you maybe enlighten us a bit on what it is for the people listening who might not know, and where to find it, and what it is that you do with that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yeah, Festive Tech Calendar. It's at festivetechcalendar.com. It's been going for a few years now. I believe it was Gregor Sutty and Richard Hooper who initially started it. And really the aim is every day of December, we have different sessions. It can either be a pre-recorded video or blog posts from different people in the community. It really does have a lot of focus within the Microsoft community, but it is agnostic. Anyone could submit something. It first came on my radar because 3 years ago, that was the first session I ever delivered. I knew Gregor fairly well anyway, and I did see this and then pitch my session. And they always accept sessions from everyone. So you could pitch, 1, 2, or 3 or more, but they'll always pick typically just one from one person to give people a chance. I think there's so many sessions this year that some days we've got 3 or 4 sessions per day. I was lucky enough I actually did deliver one on the 1st this year as well. But again, that it's been a favourite for me, a special place in my heart because that's where I started my community work. And I like that it's so diverse and agnostic. Anyone could submit something, ideally festive theme to keep it on brand. But it's not just an Azure thing or not just a Microsoft thing. Anyone can get involved. But yeah, I think after that first year, I actually reached out to Gregor and Richard and said, look, if you need any help, with the organising or the volunteering with it, I'd love to pay some back and try and help with that because they work really hard. It's a lot of work for them. And added to that, we also try and raise money for a charity every year, typically change it every year. So this year is the Beats and Cancer Charity, who do really great work. So we always try and have that giving back element as part of it. So yeah, for the last few years, I've been one of the organisers on the team. So is Lisa Hoving, who I know you've had on the podcast, a good friend of mine as well, and Simon Lee and Matt Boyd as well. So we all kind of share the work, whether it be chasing up speakers or updating the website, or whatever's needed, really. So yeah, it's great fun. I would highly recommend getting involved, at least for next year if you've missed this year.
I think it also, this is something that has really grown over the last couple of years, right? Because I think I remembered one of the first editions when Gregor was the one making a lot of noise around that on the socials. I think it was maybe not even every day of the month of December. Not entirely sure about that. But if I look at the calendar now, I mean, today you have like 4 decent sessions on, and even on the first day of Christmas, it has, I think, 3 or 4 sessions on. So there's 4 sessions on the first day of Christmas.
That's awesome.
It is. So that's really that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and some people have tried Ask Me Anything sessions, live sessions. For me, it's often been a pre-recorded video, and others do blog posts, or they might start out, "Hey, I'm going to do a video," and then life gets busy, as it always does, and hey, I might just have enough time for a blog post. Can I change it, or can I change the date? I need a bit more time. The fun of running an event or a podcast, as I'm sure you folks will know.
It is, and it's all the little things that come in between while you're planning how things should work, right?
Exactly. Yeah. When that plan makes contact with the reality, then it can often change. Yeah.
I think, and this is going to be a weird ending, but I think it was the Beatles who actually said, "Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans," right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yes, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
No, but
Keith,
it's very important that for something this to happen, that are some volunteers like you that are really active with this, because it is a lot of work, and it's all on your free time.
they are the driving force between or behind things like this.
And I think sometimes it's not so visible from the outside, because if you never organized anything or even try to sustain some pace in doing something yourself, either it's blogging or whatever, that the pressure of actually getting things done, like it's a lot of stuff, it's a lot of detail. So very much appreciated that you're running one of these initiatives.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like to get back to, Keith, or anything that you would like to add where you think, the people listening should at least know that, or are we good?
No, I think we're in a good place. Yeah, I think you've asked some great questions. I certainly didn't see the getting back from a trip unplanned questions. So all good.
Great. Well, I had so much fun, and I have the feeling we could talk for another few hours. So we might just reach out to you again in a month or so.
Yeah,
I'd love that. Much. That would be great. Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. And keep up the podcast that I mentioned before we hit record. I've been a big fan for a long time. I love the new video uploads and the other great stuff you do. So yeah, keep up the great work.
Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for listening to Beta Talks, the podcast. Beta Talks is made possible by Betbit Managed Software Development.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.